Good evening, SportsZonians. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I am Mike Aguilar. I am your host for this is SportsZone. Coming in live like we do each and every week here via the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Radio Network. We got a good show for you tonight. We'll be joined by Dave Hastings in a matter of moments. Be joined by Erich probably a little later on. And we got a lot to talk about tonight. We have the championship weekend in the NFL to talk about. Obviously, big controversies coming out of the NFC Championship game. And I'd say minor controversy coming out of the AFC Championship game. But we know who our Super Bowl matchup is going to be. And, you know, it's fitting because of this. Let's say for some reason this is the last time we see the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl one way or another. It ends right back where it started, taking on the Rams. They were the St. Louis Rams back in 2002. Now, of course, they are the Los Angeles Rams, but to me it is very fitting that that is the team they will be playing in the Super Bowl. Again, of course, applies if that is the last Super Bowl for Brady and Belichick. And there's no reason to really think that could happen, even though with Brady getting up there, definitely the end could be near in time. So that's why I say if it is the last time, fitting that they play the Rams. So that should be a very interesting matchup. We're not really going to talk too much about the Super Bowl this week. Obviously, we'll have that next week to talk about. But we'll talk all about how both teams wound up getting there. The Rams and the Saints played a very close game. Saints had a big lead early on, 13-0. The Rams wound up coming back. And then you had a very controversial call with about 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter that really shifted the momentum of that game, and the Rams wound up winning it in overtime. And then on the AFC side, Patriots had a big lead. Chiefs wind up coming back from it. Game gets tied up, goes into overtime, and the Patriots score a touchdown to win the game in overtime. So that sets that up, and we'll talk about that with Dave and Erich when they come on. And today, history was made in Major League Baseball. The Hall of Fame voting was revealed, and we have 4 Hall of Famers who made it today. And we have our first ever unanimous Hall of Fame member, and it is Mariano Rivera, the first player in baseball history to be voted into the Hall of Fame via unanimous vote, and definitely well deserved on that one. So we have that, and for me personally, very happy to see Edgar Martinez finally getting to the Hall of Fame. I've been a fan of his for a long time. Definitely thought he belonged in sooner, but we'll talk about that later because right now we have Dave Hastings joining us for tonight. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Mike. Doing good. How we doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. So I know we're going to talk about this later, but do you have any thoughts on the Hall of Fame vote? Because Mariano Rivera gets a unanimous decision, first time ever, and I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts on that.
Well, I do. You know, obviously living in where we live, I mean, it's something I've been listening to people talk about for the last few days on sports talk radio, and you know, for not being the biggest baseball fan, at least I do respect and understand how great Rivera was, and you know, I mean, to me, when you're the last person that was allowed to wear the number 42, I think that explains exactly where you stand in the, you know, history and, you know, respects of the world of baseball.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I heard a lot of people say, well, this one deserved to be unanimously voted in, this one. Whenever you're the first one and it's never happened before, there's plenty of people you could say deserve to be voted in unanimous. But Mariano Rivera is one of those people, and obviously I'm a Met fan, I'm not a Yankee fan. Mariano Rivera is one of those people who deserve to be voted in unanimously. Can't think of a better representative to be the first person to have done it. So we'll get into that a little later when Erich comes on. But for right now, and I'll give a shout out to my cousin David and my mother, who is actually listening tonight. So shout out to all you guys. And David is thrilled that Mariano was in. But again, we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about NFC Championship weekend. So we got 2 games. We have our Super Bowl set. The Los Angeles Rams beat the New Orleans Saints by a score of 26-23 in a game that went to overtime. And then in the AFC, we have the New England Patriots, once again going back to the Super Bowl, beating the Kansas City Chiefs, also in overtime, by a score of 37-31. Now, Dave, then David hates the fact that the Patriots won. Yeah, we'll get into that. We're going to start with the Saints and the Rams. And Dave, I want your opinion on this, but I want to start off with the thing that everybody's been talking about, because we talk on this show all the time about that, how there are way too many penalties that get called in the NFL on a daily, game-by-game basis. And obviously, in the playoffs, the referees have kind of relaxed the calls. They haven't been calling nearly as many penalties in the postseason as they have in the regular season. And that's great and all. But when you have a play where the defender doesn't even bother to play the ball and just runs straight into the receiver, I don't care what is going on. I don't care if you're trying to call last. It makes the fact that you call so many penalties absolutely meaningless if you're not going to call a penalty that is a clear-cut, clear as day pass interference call. So I would like your thoughts on that, Dave.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was an egregious missed call. I don't know if I could think of a more explanatory word than egregious. That's how bad that was.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where, you do like in the playoffs that they let them play more, but to not make that call, that's just really bad. I really, really believe that's really bad. But in all honesty, when it's really all said and done, New Orleans is still the main reason they lost.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, when it's all said and done, they really still, they lost the game not because of that penalty. That penalty or non-penalty was a contributory factor, but not the reason they lost. Why you're not running the ball to kill take the clock down and make them burn their timeouts, like having the ball first in overtime. Like, they had several different opportunities to be able to put that game away, and they let the Rams hang around, and the Rams made plays when they didn't. But I just think it's one of those things where, going back to the penalty itself or non-penalty, I don't see how you don't make that call. And with some of the videos you're seeing where the ref that was closest to it, there's actually a video of him waving off the ref that's farther down the sideline because that ref was reaching for his flag. And you see him waving him off and waving his hand in the air at him saying, no, don't, no. And it's just one of those things where you're just like, how? Let him throw the penalty. Then the three of you can talk about it. Like, I don't see where you come in with the right to just wave him off in such a huge moment. So I'm with you. The way they call some of these penalties throughout the regular season makes it pretty disappointing to see them really blow that one that bad.
No. And I'll say this because I'm going to respond to what you said here. I heard that, I guess, what was his name? Robbie Coleman, the cornerback who committed the penalty that should have been called. I guess he was talking to the official after the game or during everything that ensued after that. And I guess the official thought it might have been tipped, the ball, and that's why they didn't make the call. But the fact is, the receiver still has a shot to make the play on it. And I'll do one further to what you said in terms of the Saints cost themselves the game. There's no guarantee that guy makes that catch if he doesn't get hit with it, because the ball was off target to where he was. It was more towards his right. Like, it wasn't coming straight at him. So there's that. But the fact is, like, even if that ball was tipped, the receiver still has a chance to make a play on it. And that is the definition of pass interference, when the defender doesn't even attempt to make a play on the ball. He just goes straight to hit him. There's also helmet to helmet on that call, so you got that too. So there's a number of things that just in this situation, you have to make that call. And like you said, the worst that could happen is the other referee throws the flag and then the officials get together and you wave it off. Like, that's the worst that could have happened in that situation if they call it. You look 100 times worse by not making that call. But to go back to some of the other things you said, and David's pointed out in the chat room too, he's saying, if I'm the Saints, how do I allow the Rams to go down the field and tie it? Also, if I'm Drew Brees, how do you throw an interception in that spot? Yeah, that's a good point. The Saints definitely had opportunities to win this game after that play, and the fact that he did let the Rams come back from being down 13-0 to take a little bit of a lead, get in front of you, yes, that's bad on the Saints' part too. But the fact is, I feel like this was a total momentum changer. The second that call doesn't get called, and the Saints have to settle for a field goal, the Rams saw the light. And for whatever reason, like, you're professionals, you're supposed to be able to move on. For some reason, the Saints weren't able to do that. And to go back to what David's saying about the interception in overtime, after the referees tried to correct the fact that they didn't make the call, and then they called pass interference on the very first passing play by Brees in that overtime period, which I thought was very nice of them to try, even though it doesn't make up for it. That was a terrible throw by Brees that gets intercepted by the Rams that leads to that game-winning touchdown. So, Dave, I agree with your point. I stopped short of saying that the refs cost the Saints the game, but you have to make that call one way or another. So, anything else?
Well, I mean, look, I completely agree with everything your cousin David's saying in the chat room. I really do. And I mean, when it comes down to it, that penalty is getting most of the conversation. But like I said, the Saints let the Rams stay in the game, and the Rams capitalized in overtime. And what a field goal to hit it from 57. And you got to keep in mind, that's a ballsy move to kick it from that far in overtime.
Oh, yeah.
When your defense is playing as good as they were playing at the end of that game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a ballsy move because you missed that. They got the ball basically at midfield and need maybe 15 yards to get in, what's his name's range?
Lutz,
yeah. So I just, that's a ballsy move. Credit to them. And yeah, I think, to me, what's not getting enough conversation out of this game is how is Todd Gurley basically spending 2.5 quarters just on the bench?
Me and my brother were watching this game. He took me to Buffalo Wild Wings for my birthday, early birthday present. And he was mentioning that the whole time. Like, how do you go with C.J. Anderson? And they're not saying anything. But, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Gurley either still has some rust or he's still a little hurt from the injury that caused him to miss the last couple weeks of the season. Maybe he re-aggravated it against Dallas or something. But, yeah, that did look very suspicious that you're sticking with C.J. Anderson, especially when he was so unable to do anything when they handed him the ball. He just ran straight up the middle and went for 2 yards damn near every time he got the ball. So I agree with you on that part.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that. I mean, to me, I think the majority of it was the rhythm with Anderson and the offensive line after the game against Dallas the week before. Maybe there's an issue with Gurley's knee still. But I think more than anything else, maybe it's just how he started the game. I mean, he had a drop pass that led to an interception. He had another drop pass on what would have been a pretty big, I believe, third down conversion. So, he really didn't have a good start to the game. And I really just think it was where they felt like they were going with the hotter hand between the two more than anything else.
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, the part where I kind of give you credit for it is, like I said, I don't really think Anderson was able to get anything going on the ground myself. I mean, not to repeat myself, but I just felt like every time I saw him get the ball, it was the same thing. Run it up the middle, get 2 yards, go to the next passing play every time. So it didn't hurt the Rams in the long run because they still won the game. But if you're doing that in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, you're not winning that game.
That's true. I mean, I think Anderson did a little bit better than 2 yards per carry, but I get your point.
Yep. All right. So with that, we are now joined by Erich Schressler. Erich, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. How you doing?
Not too bad. So we're talking about the Rams and Saints game. I'll let you go with your thoughts very quickly, bro. Well, actually, take your
My
time.
thoughts. It was a highway robbery. There's no other thought behind the game. It's a fraudulent Super Bowl. I don't know how you have this game. They got robbed. That was the most atrocious call I've ever seen in a big game my entire life. I mean, literally, if you watch the still shot of it, if there's a picture, arms completely extended, like pushing the wide receiver. There was helmet-to-helmet contact before the ball, and the ball's still mid-flight. You can see it in the picture. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
they run the clock out. They win the game. It cost them the game.
Okay, Dave, I'll let you go to that.
See, that's where I disagree with you, Eric. They had plenty of opportunities to win that game. They were up 13-0. If they don't throw the ball on that play and they run the clock and make the Rams blow their timeouts, they basically milk the majority of the clock and take the lead and most likely have the win. They got the ball first in overtime and didn't even put up any points. That's not what cost them the game. That was a contributing factor, but that's not the only reason.
No, that definitively cost them the game. You can't say that because if they got that penalty, which they should have gotten, the NFL admitted immediately that they were wrong. But you can't go back and change it because of the human error part of it. It's just I can't. I don't even know how you can think that that's a legitimate play. How did that not cost them the game?
Listen, I think I actually agree with Dave a little bit in that I kind of fall short of saying that it cost them the game. It definitely shifted the momentum, though. But
they could have ran the clock out.
They could have did that before that throw, and they didn't.
No, they couldn't have. They could have ran it out.
They could have
literally kneeled. They didn't have to run it. They could have just kneeled it out with that first down.
Like I said, it's a contributing factor, but it's not the only reason they lost that game.
Listen, it's a large part, but again, you blow a 13-0 lead. Breeze has the bad interception in overtime. They had plenty of opportunities to win that game, but the refs have to make that call.
Well, here's what I want to know, and I want to know if either of you guys heard the same thing or have seen this stat yourself, but I heard a stat, and if the stat is true, I feel like the outcomes of both of these games are extremely questionable. From what I've heard, 90% of the money bet in Vegas is bet on the Saints and bet on the Chiefs. If that's true, and the way these games played out, I might call foul.
Oh boy, here he comes, the conspiracy theory.
Hey,
listen, put your tinfoil hats on, but how often do my tinfoil theories come true?
You've had a couple that didn't wind up coming true. So
I can't remember many. I remember a lot more hits than I may remember misses in my track record.
Listen, I'm not going to say the thought hasn't crossed my mind that the league would have rigged the game because you got the two large markets with Boston and Los Angeles being invested in it now. I'm not going to believe that they rigged the game. Not going to believe that happened. I think the ref is just a moron who's not going to be working a big game like this anymore.
I don't know. That's an egregious call. I don't think that's a call you just missed.
You and Dave must have coordinated on that word there. So
I felt the same way about that non-call. That's literally the exact same word I used, Eric.
Well, I mean, listen, great minds think alike. What can I say?
There you go. There you go.
Man.
All right. Let's move on to the other game, the Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, let's start with Eric. I'm sure you got other calls to point out, but the roughing the passer penalty. very questionable, I thought. But I wouldn't call that as bad of a call as the non-call in New Orleans, though. I don't know. It was still big. Wouldn't call that anywhere close to as big as that one, though.
Well, I don't think that one directly cost the Chiefs the game. I just think that, I don't know, that one was just another egregious call. I think there was some really bad officiating, and I don't know how the officiating in the games that are this big or this bad. It's troublesome, and now they're talking about reviews for penalties now, and I got to tell you, I think it's a slippery slope. How much stuff can you possibly review? I get a human error. This is 2 years in a row, bad luck for the Saints, but again, shy of my Vegas conspiracy theory, it was just a bad beat for it. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm glad you brought that up because I had forgotten to bring that up. I think they should be able to review penalties or non-calls, but I don't think you.
No, that's going too far.
Hang on. You don't give them extra challenges, though. You still give them 2 challenges a game.
No.
But yes, you should be allowed to review that. Absolutely. I've always felt that.
Dave, weigh in here. Dave, I got to hear you. Weigh in here. Come on.
I definitely think they should be allowed to do it because it shouldn't just be passing whatever.
Next thing you're going to want them to call balls and strikes, too.
I'm sorry.
We're not talking baseball here. We're talking football, Eric. Go ahead.
I'm
It's the
sorry,
next
but
step.
you can't be reviewing penalties and non-penalties.
Why not?
You can't give coaches that power because it's literally going to slow the game down for unnecessary reasons. How do you choose what penalties get to be reviewed and what don't get to be reviewed? I've seen non-holding penalties that have cost teams games. I've literally watched it for the Cowboys. Like, I've seen it. You can't have a coach to be able to just challenge that. It's part of the game.
But I
think that's acceptable. You want to do something about it. Do it like you do overtime, and do it like you do after the 2-minute warning. And if you want to put somebody in the booth that can call down and say, "Hey, you motherfuckers missed this one," especially and excuse my language. I apologize.
That's fine. That was funny.
I apologize, Mama. I know you're in here with us, so I'm so sorry for the language. My apologies.
That was funny.
I just, to me, it's one of those things. If you want the ability to be able to look them over or review them, well, guess what? It has to be done while the game's being played and before a team calls hike, just like calling timeout or anything like that. And it can't be coming from the coaches. You want to have somebody that's sitting there watching that replay immediately after the play happens and give them the opportunity to call down. Fine. That's as far as I'd be willing to let it go. And even that, I think, is over pushing it. It's part of the game. You go back to the miraculous reception. You go back to different plays that you've seen happen. In today's age, they would have been scrutinized and reviewed. And, did it touch the ground? Did he catch it before it touched the ground? Did it hit his thumb? Did it not hit his thumb? Blah, 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 blah. You've got to set a limit. And like Erich said, it's a slippery slope if you go too far down. It just is.
Well, I'm going to disagree with both you guys on that one because my point is you still only get 2 challenges a game. Now, you get it back if your challenge winds up going the way you want it to. But if you're not increasing the number of challenges a game, you're still staying within the 2. It's not going to slow it down that much because you're already slowing the game down with the number of penalties that get called. And I'm sorry, if you're going to call all these
but you're taking the human element out of the game. You're making it robotic.
Hang on, please. Thank you. You're still, if you're making all these different penalties and you're throwing a flag and throwing a flag and throwing a flag, there's no excuse for missing something like that. And you should be able to challenge a penalty like that because I'm telling you right now, if that penalty gets challenged, we know it. The obvious statement, you challenge that penalty, we don't have this discussion. We could talk about a great game one way or another. I'm tired of the games being decided by human error and stuff like this. And yes, it's a part of the game, but you know something? If you're going to have replay, I'm going with Belichick on this one. Belichick's been fighting for this for years. Get it right. Just get the plays right. And if this enables them to do it, I'm sorry, I'm all for it. Go ahead now, Eric.
No, it's too robotic. You're absolutely wrong. You're taking the game out of the game. Human error was always meant to be a part of the game. It's never meant to be perfect. Nothing should be perfect. No,
it shouldn't be deciding
video game. Go watch. Then go play a video game where everything's perfect and everything gets called and everything's the way it should be. Go watch virtual reality. That's not real life. You gotta have human error as a part of the game. You have to have human error as a part of the game.
On the team's part, fine, but the referees, I'm sorry, you got to get the calls right here. If you were able to get the calls right, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's just that simple.
Listen, I think we could all agree that guys should be fired, but I don't think that the game plan should be reviewing every one of his calls.
You're not reviewing
every call. They only reward bad behavior.
They
don't reward the guy who's bad at
Wait, gentlemen, hold on.
Yes.
Let's clarify one thing. Mike, you're saying they should be able to challenge penalties.
Yeah.
In this situation, in this case, there was no penalty call.
Or non-calls, excuse me.
But that's not. But you realize you are literally saying that you can challenge any moment of any game and leave nothing. It just makes.
But you only have 2 challenges a game, so you're not going to be challenging every call. There is some game management still there. With only 2 challenges, you're not challenging every call. I'm sorry, you have the ability to do it, but you can't do it because if you do that twice and they don't overturn what you want to overturn, you're losing your challenges. So there's still going to be some game management in there.
Yeah, but then
what? Yeah, but then what isn't reviewable? What's not reviewable? So everything in the game is reviewable.
I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. You guys apparently would. So we're gonna agree to disagree on that one. But I see nothing wrong with it. If the refs can decide the games like this, there should be some control back in the coach's hands on that. These games should be decided by the teams, not by the referees.
Well, I'll agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Key word there, should be. Should.
Well, I'm an idealistic guy there, Eric. I don't know what you want from me. All right. Let's finish talking about the Patriots and the Chiefs game here. Any other thoughts on this game? Dave, we'll go back to you.
I mean, I honestly think that all in all, it was a great game. I mean, you couldn't stop watching it, especially as the game wore on and got towards the third and fourth quarter. Mahomes has a bright future ahead of him. You know that. And I think, when it's really all said and done, the game itself, both games themselves were entertaining games. They both went to overtime. They both were, decent scoring where, you had some plays being made and both teams that were down double digits came back and, well, one came back and won. The other came back and fell short. But it still was entertaining. So I just, all in all, I think it was a great Sunday of football. And I hate that, 2 games that were very entertaining are being talked about in the conversation of should we change the overtime rule and should we allow coaches to challenge penalty, just challenge anything. I hate that that's what these 2 games is. That's the conversation, and it's Tuesday, and it's still going to be going on Wednesday. Like that's the most disappointing part for me. I just think it was a great day of football, and it's a shame that it's being ruined by 2 things that in the scheme just don't matter at this point in time because we have our Super Bowl team set, and nothing's going to change that.
And I agree with you. It is a shame that this is what's dominating the conversation. I totally agree with you on that. Eric, final points?
Well, that's the problem with football right now is the fact that even when the football is good and the games are close and you're in the championship games, it's not about the games. It's about, like you said, the overtime, changing rules, changing replay. It's not about the actual games themselves, and that's the problem the NFL has right now is that not enough people are talking about the actual games and they're talking about everything else. So, and I don't think this Super Bowl is going to be any different. I don't think, like you alluded to earlier, they got the bigger markets in there, so you're going to have the LA people, but really they're just fair weather fans, and I'm not actually Rams fans, to be serious. And you got the Patriots who are in it yet again, so everybody knows what to expect from Belichick and Brady. Sure, it'll be an entertaining game. Both teams are really good, but I don't know. It's just more of the same old with the NFL, and the reasons that it keeps me from being excited about it.
Well, I mean, one thing never changes with the NFL. I mean, even with something like this, part of the reason is because they're always playing from behind. They're always playing catch-up. They're always reactionary. They never do things before there's a problem. They only react to stuff when there is a problem. And the last thing I would like to say, how about the fact that if this is the last Belichick and Brady-led Patriots team in the Super Bowl, it's basically right back where they started, and they're playing the Rams, the team they first beat back in 2002. To me, that is amazing.
I would love for them to lose to the Rams and have it all come to an end. Because I mean, this is the first year I've ever said this, but I really am just getting tired of seeing them. I just am. I mean, I respect it. I'm impressed by it. I will never take anything away from what they've done for almost the last 20 years. But it's just enough's enough. Like, you know, Peyton's gone, Breeze, Brady. They're the last two kind of dinosaur, you know, franchise quarterbacks out there. Rodgers still has, you know, you figure several more years left, but like they're really the last two guys from the era that, you know, was the prime growing up for me watching football. It's kind of like I'm ready for the young guns. I'm ready to watch different things. So like let's change it up. Let's do something. But I'm not gonna lie, I was rooting for a Saints Patriots Super Bowl, hoping that they both would play and, you know, Drew could walk away a winner.
Yeah, it would have been nice. It would have been nice. But, you know, maybe, who knows? Maybe Goff winds up leading the charge of the new generation and taking it to the Patriots in this game. If you're not a Patriots fan, that's what you're rooting for. Erich, any thoughts?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
That's all I need to say about the NFL right now. I'm kind of over them. Take the other segment.
Fair enough. Well, I know you got a lot to. I'm sure you got a lot to say about the Baseball Hall of Fame voting. So, Dave, I know you got some things going on. If maybe you wanted to take off a little early, I think now we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame vote right here. So,
well, does Dave have any opinion on Mariano being the first ever unanimous Hall of Fame inductee?
We actually let off the show with that.
Yeah, Mike got the chance to ask me that, but Erich, I'll drop it for you because I know you love your Yankees, and I definitely know you love Mariano. I think he deserves it. I think the fact that he was the last player allowed to wear the number 42 throughout the season proves what level of respect he has amongst not only the guys that play the game, but the guys that have come before him. The way he was able to turn his career around, even I'm aware of the fact that he started off as, you know, more of a reliever, and they weren't sure if he had a future in the MLB, and then all of a sudden they move him to closer, and honestly, the rest is just history, being part of those great teams with Jeter. But yeah, utmost respect for him, and if anybody deserves to have that next to their name, it's definitely him.
Absolutely. So, Dave, did you want to stay with us for the last few minutes, or you wanted to take off?
I'm going to get going, guys. Not that I don't enjoy your baseball talk, but I just basically zone out anyway. So, hey, one more time.
All right, hey, did you guys talk in the NBA before?
No, we did not.
All right, yeah, no, it's probably not worth talking about anyway.
Yeah, it's the NBA. But, one more time.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you got the Warriors and everybody else. All right, we talked NBA.
Exactly. One more time before I go, man, happy birthday to both you guys. I love doing this with you. I love you both, and hopefully we get to celebrate plenty more birthdays, and I look forward to being able to see you guys in just a matter of what, Erich, a month and a half or so?
I think we got 2 months, right?
2 months.
2 months.
2 months from tomorrow.
Definitely looking forward to that as well, gentlemen. But, yeah, have a great rest of the show, and I'll talk with you guys next week.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Have a good one, man.
Everybody. Have a good one, Dave. Yeah, Erich, I forgot to mail out my RSVP, but I'm there. I'm definitely coming.
All right.
Yep. All right. So we got about 7 minutes to go here, but let's talk about some baseball here because, yes, it is great that Mariano Rivera gets in the Hall of Fame. the first ever unanimous recipient of that honor. Roy Halladay gets in, Mike Mussina gets in, but the guy I've wanted to get in for the better part of the last decade, in my opinion, one of the best pure hitters of his era, Edgar Martinez, is finally going to the Hall of Fame. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I could have done with or without Edgar Martinez. He was a career DH. Found it hard for career DHs, but I guess you're going to have to let Ortiz in, and that's practically what he was down the stretch of his career, or really for a majority of his career. And I guess, you know, and Martinez was a hell of a hitter, so, I mean, I can't take anything away from him at the plate. Like we talked about, who's the other guy that got in earlier this year?
Don't even, like, honestly, Harold Baines.
Was it Harold Baines? Yeah. Who was career, like, a DH hitter pretty much himself, too. So I don't have much thought on Edgar Martinez. Like I said, he was a really good hitter. Played on some really good teams out there in Seattle, and I respect what he did at the plate. So I don't have a problem with it. The same with Mussina. I could have done with or without him, even as a Yankee fan. You know, he only had 121 season. It was his last year. He was kind of a borderline guy for me. But, you know, another guy that I could have went either way with.
Yeah, I mean, my last thought on Edgar Martinez, first of all, and we've said it before, Harold Baines is not a legitimate Hall of Fame. I never thought he should. Martinez, in my opinion, was one of the best hitters of his generation. Like I said, it was him and Tony Gwynn, as far as I'm concerned, the best two. Dude's got a .312 lifetime batting average. He was the guy who set the table for those Mariners lineups. And remember, the 95 division series, beating you guys, not trying to throw salt in that one. But he's the guy who had the game-winning hit that scored Griffey. Everybody sees Griffey crossing the plate in a big celebration. That's like the iconic moment. Martinez is the one who made that moment happen, though. So, and that might be the biggest moment in his career, but in my opinion, I just think it's such a great thing that they finally let him in. I thought I said 95, David. But anyway, no, he definitely deserved to get in. I think it's great that he finally got in. Like you said with Mussina, we kind of said it a few weeks ago. Yeah, I'm with you, borderline guy. We kind of slammed Roy Halladay a couple weeks ago. We were not sure he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'll say this, though. The fact that he won a Cy Young Award in both the American and the National League, he's one of only a handful of guys to ever do that, and he got only the second postseason no-hitter in baseball history. just with those two things alone, I see why he got in, but I still kind of question whether or not he would have gotten his groundswell support if he was still alive. And that's probably a horrible thing to say, but I just wonder that.
I think that I'm on your train of thought there. I definitely think that played a factor into what happened and what's going on. So
yeah,
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, listen, he was a hell of a pitcher. He put up some great numbers. He didn't have the longevity of some other pitchers, in my opinion. But I don't know. He was great, but I don't know if he was, this early. I probably wouldn't have put him in this time. He would have gotten in eventually, but I don't know if it would have been on this ballot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with him getting in, though. I mean, like I said, I mean, those things right there, he did do things that very few people in baseball history did. And as much as he didn't have a long career in terms of years, he was one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball for about a decade. I mean, I know most guys with Hall of Fame careers, 15, 16 years. It's about as long, I think. Martinez had an 18, 19-year career. Mariano did it for about 18 years. So definitely a lot shorter of a career than a lot of guys you see in the Hall of Fame. But, I mean, Sandy Koufax didn't have a long career either. So not saying Halladay is Koufax by any stretch, but it's happened before. So. All right. Any other thoughts? Anybody you thought snubbed that should have gotten that?
How do we not mention Schilling only getting 60%? And then down the line, you got to think, I forget whether it was Bonds after him with 56, and then down. So I mean, there's some guys. I don't know if Schilling's even getting close yet. At 15% a lot to jump in a year. I don't know if he's making that jump next year, and it doesn't look like Bonds or Clemens are either.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know, and I don't know the ballot for next year off the top of my head, but it doesn't. I think Jeter's on the ballot for next year. I wouldn't be surprised.
Jeter is on the ballot.
So that's next year. But I don't think there's a lot of other surefire Hall of Famers next year. So maybe he does wind up getting some votes there. I was kind of surprised that Bonds and Clemens only got in the 50s percentages. And Schilling, I mean, Schilling's kind of done it to himself, though, with everything that goes on. Unfortunately, they don't really separate what has been going on in his post-career to what he was like during his career. But I agree with you. If you base it just on what he did during his career, yeah, Bobby Abreu and Jason Giambi are next year. It's not a strong Hall of Fame class next year. So maybe they wind up getting it.
No, but do you think Jeter could be the only one to get in next year?
Yeah, I mean,
Jeter go in alone.
Listen, I would like to see some of the other guys who are still on the ballot this year maybe get a little bit more. Like, we talked Clemens, Bonds, Schilling.
I don't want to see them get any more. They're good where they're at. They knew what they were doing.
Larry Walker, Todd Helton, a couple other guys. Those guys, I'm not saying I would vote them in, but I think Larry Walker deserves a lot more credit than he's actually gotten. So, anyway, we got about a minute left here, dude. I want to thank you for joining me this week. Any final thoughts there,
Erich? Definitely will not be watching the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, nobody watches the Pro Bowl.
That's atrocious. Although, isn't Tiger Woods back to playing some golf this weekend?
I have no idea. It's supposed to snow this
week. He is. And, I mean, Zion Williams on now. If you want to watch some college basketball, see what the next NBA phenom's going to look like. Turn on Duke right now. They're playing on ESPN.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. What else you got for me? You got anything else that you started the show off with that you want?
We really didn't. Unfortunately, we don't have the time. So, Erich, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everybody. My mother, cousin David, for listening. I am Mike Aglioloro. We will see y'all next week.